After a year of marriage, my wife still wouldn't let me see her phone. When I finally asked why, she said, "Real men don't need passwords." That night while she slept, I checked her phone and discovered an entire folder of photos with her ex. I didn't wake her up, just packed a bag and left the wedding album on the kitchen table. She's been calling me nonstop ever since. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference. I should have known something was off from the beginning. When I met Olivia at my cousin's wedding 2 years ago, she was charming, vivacious, and constantly checking her phone. I thought it was just a millennial thing. I'm 44, she's 36. Not a huge gap, but enough that our relationships with technology differ slightly. During our courtship, I never thought twice about her phone habits. She'd tilt the screen away when texting, change her password regularly, and keep it on silent, face down. I respected her privacy, never asked to see it, never showed any interest in who she was communicating with. I assumed this was normal in modern relationships. When we got married last year, I thought things would change naturally. They didn't. If anything, Olivia became more protective of her phone. It was never out of her sight. She'd take it to the bathroom during showers. She'd sleep with it next to her on the nightstand, always face down. Once, when I picked it up to move it while cleaning, she quickly came over to take it back. Still, I said nothing. I believed in trust, in giving each other space. I've never been the jealous type, never felt the need to monitor her communications or friendships. If she needed privacy, I was happy to give it to her. Until the passwords became a pattern in other areas of our lives. 6 months into our marriage, I asked for the login information to our joint bank account, which she had set up. "Why do you need it?" she asked, immediately defensive. I explained that I wanted to check our balance before making a large purchase for the house. She made me wait while she looked it up herself, then read the balance to me. Never gave me the login information. A month later, we needed to log into our shared cloud storage to retrieve some tax documents. Again, she insisted on doing it herself, refusing to share the login credentials. Despite these red flags, I maintained my composure. I'm a structural engineer by profession. I deal in facts, calculations, verifiable data. I noticed the inconsistencies in her behavior, but I didn't want to make accusations based on suspicions alone. However, I did begin to document these incidents, noting dates and circumstances. The breaking point came last week. My brother had been in a serious car accident, and I'd left my phone at home while rushing to the hospital. When I realized this, I asked to borrow Olivia's phone to call my sister for an update. "Just use the hospital phone," she said, her hand instinctively covering her device. "It's long distance," I explained. "Please, it'll just take a minute." She reluctantly handed it over. But only after quickly closing several apps, I saw her do this, and warning me not to snoop around. That night, after confirming my brother would recover, I finally asked the question that had been building for months. "Why won't you ever let me see your phone, or share any passwords with me?" She didn't look up from her screen. "I believe in privacy in relationships, even from your husband, even for shared accounts." She sighed dramatically, as if I was being unreasonable. "God, Marcus, real men don't need passwords. Real men trust their wives without invading their privacy." The words landed like a slap. Not because they hurt, but because of their practiced delivery. As if she'd used this line before, as if it was a prepared defense. I didn't press further that evening, but her words replayed in my mind as I tried to sleep. Real men don't need passwords. It wasn't about trust anymore. It was about manipulation. After careful consideration, and recognizing that our state is a no-fault divorce state, meaning evidence of infidelity wouldn't significantly impact proceedings, I decided I needed to know what I was dealing with. The fact that I didn't have access to our jointly owned accounts was concerning enough from a financial safety perspective. The next morning, I hired a private investigator to follow Olivia, explaining my concerns about potential infidelity and financial manipulation. While this was an expensive route, it felt more legally sound than attempting to access her private device without permission. Within a week, the PI had gathered substantial evidence. Olivia was indeed meeting regularly with her ex-boyfriend Ryan, who was separated from his wife, but not yet divorced. They had been seen entering hotels together during times Olivia had claimed to be at work conferences. The PI also documented them using my car, which explained the unexplained mileage I'd noticed recently. Most concerning, the PI managed to photograph them reviewing documents together in a coffee shop, documents that appeared to be financial in nature, with what looked like my name visible on some pages. Armed with this evidence, I contacted a lawyer who advised me on the proper steps to protect myself. With legal guidance, I did the following. 1. Requested and received login information for all joint financial accounts from our bank directly. As a joint account holder, I had every legal right to this information. 2. Documented that significant sums had been transferred from our joint account to an account I didn't recognize, approximately $2,000 monthly for the past 6 months. 3. With my lawyer present, I accessed these records and discovered Olivia had been diverting funds to a separate account in her name only. Following my lawyer's advice, I did not immediately confront Olivia. Instead, 1. Secured copies of all financial records. 2. Withdrew exactly half of the remaining joint funds to a new account in my name only, leaving detailed documentation of this transaction with my lawyer. 3. Secured my personal belongings and important documents. 4. Arranged temporary housing. On the day I planned to leave, I waited until Olivia left for her Pilates class. I left our wedding album on the kitchen table, open to a photo of us exchanging vows. On it, I placed my house key and a letter from my lawyer outlining that I was initiating divorce proceedings based on financial impropriety, with evidence of the diverted funds. I noted that I would be staying at a hotel temporarily, and all further communication should go through my attorney, whose contact information was provided. I checked into a hotel across town. By noon, my phone started blowing up with calls from Olivia. I didn't answer. Text messages followed. Where are you? Why did you take your things? What's going on? Call me right now. Each message more desperate than the last, but none acknowledging what she'd done. By evening, the tone had changed. Please come home so we can talk. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I can explain everything. Please don't do this to us. I maintained my silence, following my lawyer's advice to avoid any communications that could be used against me later. The next day, my lawyer confirmed he'd contacted Olivia with formal notice of divorce proceedings, citing financial misconduct and including evidence of the diverted funds. That's when her messages became frantic. How dare you spy on me? Those transfers are not what you think. Ryan was just helping me with investments. You're overreacting. You had no right to invade my privacy. And finally, the most telling, you'll never find anyone like me. On that point at least, we agreed. By day 3, she'd recruited reinforcements. My phone showed missed calls from her parents, her sister, even my own mother. I spoke only to my mother, briefly explaining the situation and sharing some of the evidence. She was horrified but understood immediately why I'd left. Olivia showed up at my office that afternoon. My assistant, who knew about the situation, refused to let her in. She created such a scene that security had to escort her out. My coworkers witnessed the entire spectacle, her screaming that I was acting crazy and throwing away our marriage over nothing. That evening, I finally broke my silence with a single text. Contact will now be through our respective attorneys only. Her response was immediate. You're making a huge mistake. I was helping Ryan through his divorce. The money was just a loan. I almost laughed at the absurdity, the desperate lie. I didn't respond. On day 5, a large flower arrangement arrived at my office with a card pleading for a second chance. I donated the flowers to a nearby nursing home. On day 7, her father called, offering to mediate the situation. I politely declined, explaining that the evidence was unambiguous. Olivia made her choice. I told him, I'm simply protecting myself at this point. The most unexpected development came on day 10. Ryan's estranged wife, Angel, contacted me through my lawyer. She'd discovered the affair from her end and wanted to share information. We met in my lawyer's office to ensure everything was properly documented. Two strangers united by betrayal and shared what we knew. Turns out, Ryan and Olivia had reconnected 2 years ago, around the time Olivia and I were getting serious. They had been involved throughout my courtship and marriage to Olivia. Angela showed me text messages from Ryan's phone, which she had legal access to as it was a family plan in her name, where they discussed me, mocking my obliviousness, laughing about how I accepted Olivia's excuses without question. "He's so trusting, it's almost sad," Olivia had written. "Real men don't need passwords." Ryan had replied with a laughing emoji, an inside joke between them at my expense. "It's been 2 weeks now. The divorce proceedings are moving forward. Olivia has switched tactics from begging to threats, from threats to bargaining. Her latest offer, delivered through her attorney, she'll return the diverted funds if I promise not to share the real reason for our divorce with friends and family. She's worried about her reputation, about people discovering who she really is." I refused. Not out of spite, but out of principle. I won't lie about what happened, won't manufacture a more palatable story to protect the woman who spent a year lying to my face. If she wanted privacy, she should have behaved privately. Yesterday, my personal belongings were delivered from our house, packed by a service I'd hired to avoid any interaction with Olivia. Among them was a small box containing items I hadn't packed. Birthday cards I'd given her, concert tickets from our dates, the watch I'd given her as a wedding gift. Her attempt at emotional manipulation, no doubt. At the bottom of the box was a handwritten letter, 10 pages of explanations, justifications, and pleas for understanding. I read it completely, as my lawyer advised documenting all communications, then provided it to him for the case file. The letter essentially admitted to the relationship with Ryan, but attempted to minimize it while simultaneously blaming me for not being emotionally available enough. Some people never take responsibility, even when confronted with irrefutable evidence of their actions. Some people will always make themselves the victim, even when they're the architect of the destruction. As for me, I'm staying in a furnished apartment until the divorce is finalized. I'm focusing on work, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during my marriage, and rebuilding the parts of myself that I compromised to accommodate Olivia's deceptions. "Real men don't need passwords," she said. "But real men do know when to walk away." Eat it, some clarifications based on comments. 1. Yes, I was within my legal rights to take half of our joint account. The account was specifically designated for household expenses to which we both contributed equally. My lawyer confirmed this was appropriate and documented the transaction properly. 2. For those asking why I hired a PI instead of confronting her first, when someone is being deceptive while hiding evidence, confrontation would have only given her time to delete evidence and craft better lies. I needed to know what I was dealing with from a legal perspective. 3. Several people have commented that Olivia might try to claim I abandoned the marriage. My lawyer assured me that with the documented evidence of financial impropriety and the proper notice I provided, this won't be an issue in our state's divorce proceedings. 4. No, I don't regret my approach to discovering the truth. Privacy is important in marriage, but so is honesty. When one partner is clearly hiding something consequential to the relationship and diverting shared finances, it becomes a legal as well as personal issue. 5. Angela and I are not dating, for those who asked. We've met twice in legal settings to share information relevant to our respective divorces. That's it. Update. 1 month later, the divorce process continues, but the emotional storm has somewhat calmed. Olivia has finally stopped trying to contact me directly and is working through her lawyer, as she should have been doing all along. An unexpected development. Ryan appears to have disappeared from Olivia's life completely. According to information revealed during divorce proceedings, he reconciled with his wife once the affair was exposed. Olivia is now telling people I was controlling and invasive, rewiring the narrative to cast herself as the victim. Few believe her, especially after the financial evidence came to light during the proceedings. I've settled into my new apartment, which feels more like home than our house ever did. There's something freeing about shedding a relationship built on deception. I've started rock climbing again, a hobby I'd given up during my marriage because Olivia found it boring, and reconnected with old friends. The most valuable lesson from all this? Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong consistently, it probably is. Real relationships don't need secrecy, manipulation, or the phrase, "real men don't need passwords." Final update 6 months later. The divorce was finalized last week. In the end, Olivia was ordered to return the diverted funds plus interest, and we divided our remaining assets according to state law. I've learned that she and Ryan briefly got back together after his wife filed for divorce, but it didn't last. According to mutual friends, he left her for someone else. Poetic justice, perhaps. As for me, I've purchased a cabin by the lake, something I'd always wanted but Olivia had dismissed as too rustic. I split my time between there and my city apartment. Work is going well. I was promoted to senior project manager last month. I've started dating again, cautiously. The woman I'm seeing now, a wildlife photographer I met on a hiking trail, handed me her phone on our third date to show me pictures she'd taken. When I commented on her lack of phone security, she shrugged and said, "I don't have anything to hide." It shouldn't have felt as significant as it did, but after Olivia, transparency feels like a gift. Not because I need her passwords, but because the absence of secrecy indicates the absence of deception. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can take from a broken relationship is the wisdom to recognize a whole one when you find it.